Welcome to Around San Diego, my favorite time of the week. So glad to have you with me. I'm Jenny Day. I'll get you caught up on a week's worth of news and look ahead in just 30 minutes. So for the first time ever, a San Diego service member has been charged with espionage for allegedly selling secret documents to China. Petty Officer Patrick Way was stationed at Naval Base San Diego on board the USS Essex. CBS 8's David Godfredson was in federal court when prosecutors said that Wade told another sailor that he was involved.
The 22-year-old petty officer pleaded not guilty in federal court Thursday afternoon, one day after being arrested at Naval Base San Diego on espionage charges. Patrick Way worked as a machinist on board the USS Essex. He had a security clearance and sent classified material to a Chinese intelligence officer between March 2022 and as recently as 2 days ago, according to San Diego's U.S. Attorney, Randy Grossman.
Our indictment alleges that over the course of more than a year and on multiple occasions, Way sent national defense information to China, including documents, photos, videos, and technical manuals.
Prosecutors said Way collected between $10,000 and $15,000 from his Chinese intelligence officer, while at the same time working to become a U.S. citizen.
The officer even congratulated him when he became a U.S. citizen in May of 2022.
A second Navy petty officer, 26-year-old Thomas Zhao, is in custody in Los Angeles, facing bribery and conspiracy charges for allegedly passing classified records to the Chinese government. Zhao worked at Naval Base Ventura County and is accused of accepting $15,000 in bribes from a Chinese handler.
Mr. Zhao transmitted operational plans for a large-scale U.S. military exercise in the Indo-Pacific region, which details specific location and timing of naval force movements.
In court Thursday, the prosecutor said the San Diego defendant told a fellow sailor he was being recruited for what he knew was, quote, quite obviously effing espionage. It's unclear if the two sailors were communicating with the same Chinese intelligence officer, but prosecutors believe the cases are indeed related.
They're related because they reflect the overall effort and the malign activities of the PRC when it comes to threatening our national security.
The San Diego-based sailor is facing life in prison if convicted of those espionage charges. The sailor up in Ventura County is facing 20 years in prison if convicted of all counts up there. At the downtown Federal Building, David Godfredson, CBS 8.
Yeah, and Patrick Way is being held without bail in San Diego. He'll be back in court for a detention hearing on Tuesday. A federal grand jury, meantime, issued an indictment against former President Donald Trump. And on Thursday, he pleaded not guilty to the accusations that he overturned the 2020 presidential election. This includes the events surrounding January 6th. The 4 felony charges include conspiracy to defraud the United States and obstruction of an official proceeding. This is the 3rd criminal indictment brought against Trump as he seeks to reclaim the White House in 2024. 6 co-conspirators are mentioned but not yet named. Trump may also soon face new charges out of Georgia, where another grand jury is looking at possible attempts to replace state electors with people loyal to him. And the former president and GOP frontrunner is already due to go to trial next May over his handling of classified documents. Now, across the country, including here at home, supporters and opponents of former President Donald Trump have strong reactions to the former president's arraignment, of course. Dozens of San Diegans gathered in Balboa Park with a very clear message that no one is above the law. But Trump supporters called it a sad day for America, echoing Trump's legal defense that he was exercising his freedom of speech.
He was expressing his opinion that this past election had many flaws in it, and I agree. It was the most flawed election in my lifetime.
Well, there's limits to free speech where it becomes dangerous and causes harm to others. You know, you could say what you want, you could lie, but once it becomes something that endangers other people, it's not okay.
Yeah, now while the prosecution is seeking a speedy trial, Trump's legal team has indicated that they will seek delays as Trump now faces charges in 3 separate cases. Both sides are expected back in court August 28th. Well, a former San Diego sheriff's deputy who sexually assaulted multiple women while on duty is out of jail months earlier than expected. CBS 8 has confirmed that Richard Fisher is out on electronic monitoring. So a judge sentenced Fisher to nearly 4 years back in 2019. He was mistakenly released early in 2020 because of an error over his credits for time served. A judge ordered him back to jail earlier this year after an appeals process. Again, he's now out. Well, authorities are investigating a collision between a jet ski and a paddleboard that killed a 12-year-old girl. San Diego police say it happened just before 2 last Saturday afternoon in De Anza Cove when an 18-year-old Bellflower man on a jet ski hit the child. Police say the girl was brought to shore and was treated immediately before being taken to the hospital where she died. Right now, intoxication is not believed to have been a factor in this crash. And a father of 6 is being remembered by his family after his life was tragically taken by a wrong-way driver on the 805 last week. Abel Bermudez was on his way to Mexico when that crash happened. CBS 8's Steve Price spoke with his family.
Abel Bermudez was heading into Mexico last Wednesday to see his daughter and his mom. He never made it. A wrong-way driver who has since been charged with driving while intoxicated slammed into his minivan, killing the father of 6.
He always helped everybody, always gave the best advice, natural-born leader. He was an amazing man.
Jorge Benitez was just 3 years old when Abel Bermudez came into his life.
I was blessed to be raised by him.
He describes Abel as a blue-collar worker with a heart of gold.
Every time I spoke to him, I felt better. Every time I had a problem, I'd go to him. And after that, I feel like all my worries will dissolve just by talking to him. He'll make me feel good.
The crash happened Wednesday morning on the 805, just a couple of exits from the border. Police say the wrong-way driver made a U-turn to avoid heading into Mexico and ended up heading northbound in the southbound lanes. Abel died at the scene.
He was a great man, family man, friend to everybody.
He was also a devoted husband. Jorge's mom and Abel have been together for more than 30 years. Their youngest child is just 10 years old.
Still depended on him a lot.
Abel's family has set up a GoFundMe to help his wife, a stay-at-home mom, raise their daughter. Abel was always there for Jorge when he was growing up, and he wants to make sure his mom is there for his sister.
He introduced me to everybody as his son, and people would trip out because I look a lot different than him. You know, I'm 6'4" and he's short, and they'll be like, "Is your son?" And I'm gonna be like, "Yeah, that's my son."
It's been a week since the crash, and the shock hasn't faded. Jorge still hoping his dad isn't really gone.
I just feel like he's gonna drive up at any minute. I keep looking out the driveway, and I'm just really gonna miss him.
Steve Price, CBS 8.
Yeah, just such a preventable act, so it makes it all that much more tragic. The family you see here has set up a GoFundMe page in memory of Abel Bermudez. You can find a link to that on our website, cbs8.com. Well, that was the homecoming for 75 kids in Poway who just got back from a 9-day hiking trip. People there are remembering a former teacher who died while hiking in Rancho Bernardo. Eddie Lindros' body was found near Lake Hodges just last Wednesday. Lindros was beloved in the hiking community. He started the Poway Backpackers group back in 1972, and it proudly continues to this day. The current leader of the group says that he will carry on Eddie's legacy.
I kept this alive in his spirit. We run the program like he did initially in 1972. He believed in all of us, even when we didn't believe in us, that we could make it up a hill or over a pass. He was always there to, you can do it, you got this.
Well, how inspiring. So yeah, still unclear exactly how he died. He was 81 years young. Well, people around San Diego are remembering Sir, the police canine who was killed while responding to a shooting in Claremont. SDPD posted a really touching tribute on social media. Take a look. You can just really tell what a valued member of the team he was. They are just incredible, truly an asset to the department. So the police department did right. We salute you for your ultimate sacrifice, a true hero who served with honor until the very end. Rest easy, sir. As you chase endless Kong toys in doggy heaven, know that your legacy is forever etched in our hearts. Well, this week, San Diego police also started enforcing an unsafe camping ordinance. The city says that the goal is to get people off the streets and into shelters. Getting the people living in encampments off the streets won't happen overnight, though. As CBS 8's Shannon Handy reports, it's going to take some time.
The ordinance bans encampments on all public property when shelter beds are available, but there are certain areas like outside transit centers where camping is not allowed regardless of shelter space or not. So why are these tents here? Mayor Gloria says it's a process.
This process will take weeks, if not months. This is not an overnight thing. You will continue to see tent encampments in the city today and tomorrow, but my goal is that over a period of time, that in a few months from now, you'll see far fewer.
This morning, San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria explained what enforcing the new unsafe camping ordinance will look like, saying it's a scaled approach. To start, police will focus their efforts near select schools and parks heavily impacted by encampments before moving to other areas where they're not allowed, such as near transit centers and homeless shelters. A first contact is simply to educate someone about the ban. A second contact will result in a misdemeanor citation. A third one is potential for arrest.
Do you think the ban will work?
No. It's messing everything up. It's going to cause a lot more stress, a lot more problems, a lot more fights. And it's going to spread out into the neighborhood.
Moses Miramontes has been living on the streets for 5 years. He's one of several homeless people I spoke with today who worry there's nowhere for them to go.
They're not telling us to get off the street. They're just telling us we can't camp out around schools, around trolley stations. Okay, so you're just moving us where? Off the side of the freeway? They don't have a plan. They don't.
At last count, there were about 3,300 people living without shelter in the city of San Diego, far more than the 2,400 emergency shelter beds available. There are, however, plans to create hundreds of new beds as well as open up more safe parking lots. As for the unsafe camping ban, a city spokesperson tells CBS 8 outreach teams have spent weeks educating people about what options they currently have. This afternoon, San Diego Police Neighborhood Policing Division Captain Sean Takeuchi echoed what Mayor Gloria said, telling us he had teams out in Balboa Park, and while no one accepted the shelter that was offered, it's only the first step.
I think eventually we're going to change people's behavior, right? And that's what we're trying to do, is change people's behavior so that they make the right decisions. And that takes time.
Shannon Handy, CBS 8.
Shannon, thank you. Well, the city of San Diego also just greenlit the use of smart streetlights and automatic license plate readers. The city council's vote does not implement the technologies, but it does open up the possibility that the San Diego Police Department can use them for investigations. To use the technology, the department will have to go through an approval process. The city council meeting included more than 2 hours of public comment, with dozens of people speaking out against that technology.
I am against the streetlights because they're going to impact Black, brown, and poor communities far more than they're going to impact white communities or wealthy communities.
No word on when those cameras will be installed. Head to CBS8.com to check out the proposed locations for those streetlights. Well, recreational marijuana use has been legal in California since 2018, but can field sobriety tests identify drivers under the influence of cannabis? A new study by UC San Diego evaluates how effective field sobriety tests are at measuring THC exposure and impairment. So the study found that field sobriety tests may be insufficient in DUI cases involving cannabis. The study included 184 adult cannabis users between the ages of 21 and 55. 63 participants were given a placebo cannabis cigarette, while 121 received THC cannabis cigarette. Trained law enforcement officers then performed field sobriety tests at 4 different time intervals, roughly around 1, 2, 3, and 4 hours after smoking that joint. Regardless of whether the participants received THC or the placebo, officers estimated 99% of those who failed the tests received THC.
In this study, the attribution was that if you failed the field sobriety tests or did poorly on them, that you must have received the THC, when in fact that was not the case. In this case, the field sobriety tests themselves really were not good at determining if someone's impaired by cannabis or not.
Yeah, so the study also looked at driving performance, and what they found was that people who did poorly on the driving simulator did worse on the field sobriety test. The DMV and California Highway Patrol will soon be looking for volunteers to light up a joint and get behind the wheel. It's a follow-up study that will focus on the impacts of smoking and what cannabis may have on our driving abilities. Well, this week marked the 40th anniversary of National Night Out. The annual community event is a campaign to promote community partnerships between police and neighborhoods. We were all over San Diego County as people focused on making their communities better, safer, and just overall a greater place to live. CBS 8's Regina Urita takes us to events in El Cajon and National City.
Well, National Night Out is centered on creating positive interactions between law enforcement and the community. Just take a look behind me. There are dozens of people enjoying what these events have to offer.
Police from all over San Diego County welcome people for the National Night Out celebration this Tuesday night.
They were taking pictures with the officers and they were really friendly about it.
Just rocking around, having a good time, and just talking to all the policemen.
National Night Out is an annual get-together to help build trust between neighbors and law enforcement. At Balboa Park in National City, families were able to participate in different demonstrations set up by police and first responders.
We share a lot of information about public safety and crime prevention, and you can see over here we got all kinds of stuff that we show them so that they can learn about what we do.
Kenneth Springer with National City's Police Department emphasized police officers and the police department are part of the community, not separate. He says being transparent, like showing off their military equipment, lets people know why they have it.
We want everybody to know that, you know, in fighting crime, we need the community support and help to do so.
Similar celebrations took place in Imperial Beach, San Diego, and Chula Vista. At Parkway Plaza Mall in El Cajon, many families acknowledge why events like these are important.
So that children are more aware of what's going on in their community and they're not afraid of police officers.
Many of the families I spoke with tonight say they look forward to even more events that help with community engagement. Regina Urita, CBS 8.
Good stuff, Regina. Thank you. Well, 9 San Diego Unified School District police officers say that they are planning to sue the school district superintendent and the department's police chief. They say it's all over allegations of corruption, favoritism, and retaliation. According to the officer's attorney, John Gomez, many of the issues stem from an alleged personal relationship between Chief Alfonso Contreras and one of his subordinates, Sergeant Jennifer Gruner. Gomez says that it violates the code of ethics and California law. He says officers approached Superintendent Lamont Jackson about the allegations, but said nothing was done. CBS 8 reached out to San Diego Unified for comment, and they said in part the district is precluded from disclosing the details of personnel matters and does not discuss pending litigation. You can read more about that lawsuit on CBS8.com. And the city of San Diego is officially adding a second ambulance provider. This is to help prevent long response times and make sure that San Diegans get emergency help when they need it most. The city voted to start a contract with American Medical Response as an additional ambulance provider to Falck. The council also approved having the city collect ambulance transport charges from patients along with a 7% fee increase in fiscal year 2025. The city is also looking to shift the control of ambulance emergency response efforts to the fire department.
No longer will we have to just simply depend on a private ambulance company to tell us how they're going to run the ambulance. We now will be in control. The fire department will be in control of everything from staffing to dispatch.
So Falck also announced that they have finally reached a full level of staffing. Well, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis says that he will debate California Governor Gavin Newsom. The two governors have been feuding for really the past year, but won't face each other on any ballot in 2024. In June, Newsom said that he was, quote, all in on a debate with DeSantis. A spokesperson for Newsom says the governor sent DeSantis a formal debate offer just last Friday. DeSantis appeared on Fox News Wednesday and accepted that challenge. The debate will be moderated by Fox News host Sean Hannity. It will air live in November in a battleground state. Well, some Tierra Santa homeowners are sounding the alarm, saying that the overgrown brush near their homes is really a fire hazard. They are particularly concerned about the highly flammable eucalyptus trees over their fence. If they caught on fire, they could be blown toward the homes by those Santa Ana winds. That area is owned by Marine Corps Air Station Miramar. They did do a good job of keeping everything trimmed after the cedar fire, but in the past decade, the overgrowth has gotten thicker, bringing back some of those really heavy memories.
It's something that I think as a neighborhood we want to make sure is best protected as best we can. So it's heavy. Every time you hear that Santa Ana wind coming, you start to worry, and a little brush fire here or there. It's just overwhelming to think back to those years.
I mean, I really can relate. Far too many of us have a story, and it's just kind of chilling. So we got to do our part. CBS 8 reached out to MCAS Miramar and was notified that they do acknowledge the concerns and are exploring the permanent removal of eucalyptus trees there in Tierra Santa. Well, hundreds of teenagers turned out for an unsanctioned rave party over the weekend in a canyon underneath the 805 freeway bridges there in Sereno Valley. They are called underground raves, and we have seen two of them pop up in San Diego in as many weeks. CBS 8's David Godfredson checked out the scene of this latest party that included a DJ, a light show, and a full stage.
This is what the underground rave looked and sounded like late Saturday night and into early Sunday morning underneath the 805 freeway at Carroll Canyon Road in Sereno Valley. Hundreds of teenagers and young adults dancing the night away to a DJ and light show. The location under the freeway bridges on Caltrans property with no access to vehicles. The sound and laser show apparently powered by a generator. At 12:30 a.m., the police showed up, but there was nothing they could do because of the remote location along train tracks in the Carroll Canyon creek bed. Officers told dispatchers they were leaving the scene.
This rave party thing is down in the ravine, a canyon area that we cannot safely access. So unless we get any 911 calls out here where they need emergency assistance, we'll be clearing from here.
I checked out the area Monday morning. There's access from a parking lot where rave goers would have to walk through some pretty thick brush. Another access point through a fenced-off Caltrans construction zone. The area where the stage was set up appeared to be cleaned up with no trash left behind. It's not only the police that have problems getting into areas like this for these underground raves. You can imagine the problems an ambulance or paramedics would have reaching someone overdosing or injured, and their only access is a hole in the fence. That's what happened 2 Saturdays ago at a similar underground rave along the San Diego River underneath the Marina Boulevard Bridge. A young woman had to be carried out on a stretcher after she reportedly suffered a non-fatal overdose. The locations of these underground raves typically get posted on social media just a few hours before the show begins. This post indicates tickets were a sellout for Saturday night's rave in Sorrento Valley. David Gottfredson, CBS 8.
All happening under the freeway. So the land under that bridge is state property. A spokesperson for the California Highway Patrol said that Saturday's rave was illegal. The department did not receive any calls for service related to that event. Well, we are seeing slightly cooler temperatures thanks to the cloud coverage from that monsoonal flow. But for most of July, it has really been the July fry. And that hot weather is not only making it tough on us, it's also putting a lot of pressure on stress on plants around our home. Meteorologist Sean Stiles shares with us the things that you can do to help your landscape survive in this Earth 8 report.
July now looks to be the hottest month ever on the planet. And here in San Diego, July fry was cooking plants. So we went to Walter Anderson to talk to an expert how to protect your landscape investment.
Waiting until plants are begging for water is a problem. Don't wait for them to be wilting and drought stressed.
David Ross is the senior manager at Walter Anderson's nursery in Poway.
We had the greatest winter that I ever remember, and the plants were thriving on all of that clean water that they got. But it's been months since we've had some real rain.
Combine that with the heat waves we've been seeing, and landscapes are taking a beating. Ross says if you're using drip irrigation, it's probably not enough.
So when you are watering with a drip system, you have to figure whatever size basin you're trying to fill, the drippers have to be on long enough to maybe water a 2 or 3 foot diameter circle down a foot.
Watering ahead will help your plants beat the heat.
If you soak them well, most plants that are established, that have been in the ground for more than 2 summers, will only need to be watered once or 1.5 times per week.
Of course, if a plant is showing signs of stress or wilting, water it. But Ross has a time of day he prefers to water.
I like to water early in the morning so things dry out during the day. Other people prefer to water overnight, and that can encourage mildew and fungus because the foliage stays wet all night.
Water is expensive here in San Diego, so here are 3 tips to save.
This is the biggest thing, the most important thing you can do to reduce water use and make your plants healthy and successful. Buying a bag of wood chips.
Mulch can reduce the amount of water needed by 50%, and when it breaks down, it adds nutrients to the soil. Here are some other signs your plants are suffering.
Sago palms are very direct in telling you they aren't getting enough water or they're getting too much sun. And it starts here with the portion of the leaf that is getting the most intense sun starts to turn yellow, and then it'll turn brown after it's prolonged drought stress.
For lawns, it's all about how you water.
Bermuda can get away with 1 good deep watering per week. Tall fescue should only need 2 good waterings per week.
But if water is running off your lawn, try using a penetrant that will relieve surface tension.
And water that in, and that'll open up the soil so the water will go down deeper so you aren't constantly watering.
And for those that have a potted garden, your plants could be made in the shade.
Shade cloth. This is not the frost cloth for winter, but it's shade cloth. And if you just drape this across your plants, this is 50% shade, it's going to reduce the amount of sun exposure, which is going to reduce the stress on the plants and the amount of water they're going to use, which does make a huge difference. And sun plants will take 50% shade, and shade plants will take 50% sun.
One of the tips I like the best from Ross is pay attention to what your garden looks like when it's healthy. So when it does start to stress, you can take the steps to prevent damage. Sean Stiles, Earth 8.
I also like that tip on mulch, and obviously just a great way to save some water. Sean, thank you. Well, running home air conditioning in San Diego is more expensive than in any other city in the country. That's according to a new study. We are working for you to find out how you can cut down on costs. The study from Casinos.win shows that San Diegans would, on average, pay over $1,100 if the AC was running 24 hours a day for 30 days. That's nearly 3 times the U.S. average. We talked to AC technicians. They say to save money, don't set the thermostat too high or even too low.
A lot of people are trying to, save money by not running their system. Now, they let their system get to about 85 degrees and they get home and go, oh my God, it's hot. So they set it down to 70 thinking that we're gonna cool the house.
Guilty of that. Are we supposed to keep it more moderate all day long? So yeah, to keep the heat out, also make sure to seal all gaps where cool air can escape and keep those windows closed and covered. Well, a San Diego teenage tennis star has a memory to cherish after winning a national tournament hosted by Billie Jean King. In the Zevely zone, Jeff hits the court at the Barnes Tennis Center in Ocean Beach.
Playing tennis on center court is nerve-wracking, but try doing it in front of a tennis icon. As much as I try not to get into a back and forth with a teenager, 16-year-old Alyssa On had an answer for everything sent her way. I love this story because you entered a tournament with 256 players.
That's a lot. One of the biggest draws of the year for national tournaments.
Last August, Alyssa earned a spot in the USTA Billie Jean King Girls 16 National Championship at the Barnes Tennis Center, which just happens to be her home court. You train here every day, so even though these players are flying in from across the country, you're kind of like, this is my turf.
Yeah, I get to sleep in my own bed, and yeah, my coach was here, so it was really cool.
She's an amazing girl to work with. That's all I can say. I mean, I feel like I'm the lucky one.
Steve Adamson, the director of tennis at the Barnes Tennis Center, says when a tournament is hosted by one of the biggest names in tennis history, you feel the pressure. She's playing in front of Billie Jean King.
Yes.
Can it get any more nerve-wracking than that?
It's where I think I was a lot more nervous than she was.
Face to face, she's very stoic, but get her between the lines and she's kind of a killer.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, she has a little bit of a split personality when she gets on the court. She's an incredible competitor.
Alyssa won the national championship in front of her idol.
To get to meet her after the match was something that I'll never forget.
Alyssa volunteers to provide underserved children access to tennis, and this Hall of Famer told her to keep up the good work on and off the court. In a way, do you want to become a Billie Jean King?
Yeah, definitely. I would love to become not only inspiring for little kids all around the world, but also a top-level tennis player like she was.
Do you ever miss? Believe me. Oh boy. When I tell you Alyssa On will never turn it off when she plays tennis in college and possibly the pros. Before you get too famous, would you sign a ball for me?
Of course.
In the Zevely zone. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Jeff Zevely, CBS 8.
Yeah, good luck for sure. What a bright future. I've played tennis my whole life. It is so fun. The USTA Billie Jean King Girls National Championship returns to the Barnes Tennis Center this Saturday and runs through August 13th. For more information, visit the Zevely Zone page on CBS8.com. Well, certainly no family or child ever wants to deal with a cancer diagnosis, but there are resources to help them through the journey. CBS 8's Ariana Cohen stopped by a very special camp in Balboa Park that helps young cancer patients just have fun being a kid for a while. She tells us that the camp is celebrating a very big milestone.
Yes, at this camp, volunteers get nicknames. I got the nickname Safari, short for Ari Safari. It's all put together by a passionate organization, Oncology and Kids, or OAK. They are celebrating their 40th year for Camp Reach for the Sky for young patients affected by cancer to just enjoy being a kid.
It's called a Hickman. It's to get all the cancer out of me, but it's poofy.
9-year-old Gavin Garcia was diagnosed with a rare cancer last year.
I have birth Burkitt's lymphoma, and the doctor said that's like a 0.01% chance Burkitt's lymphoma.
Like Gavin, everyone here at Camp Reach for the Sky at Balboa Park has in some way been affected by cancer. But this week, that devastating diagnosis is the last thing on their minds.
This is like their Disneyland.
This is the 40th year of the free week-long program aimed to help children ages 4 through 10 with cancer, siblings of kids with cancer, and children of parents with cancer. They even have local volunteer hospital staff on site to provide chemotherapy and other medical needs.
It's nothing but smiles. I mean, you look at the calendar events, we've got therapy, dogs and horses coming today. We've got a marshmallow fight later this week. We've got water activities, FBI SWAT's coming. We have all these different activities, and kids have no idea. Every day's a surprise, and everything from basic things like arts and crafts too, like finding ways where we're keeping them busy so that cancer really isn't the thought this week. So this is a week where they don't have to worry about cancer. They can just be themselves.
The main thing is just normalcy and just getting them out of the hospital setting and having fun as a kid.
Robbie Medina went to this camp as a kid when he had bone cancer. It's now come full circle as he is cancer-free and works as a camp administrator.
I met my wife through camp. My 5 groomsmen I met through camp. You know, it was a life-changing experience.
For the rest of this week, Gavin is going to appreciate the simple joys of just being a kid.
Because usually I never have this fun. It only happens like once in a while, but I have like fun a lot every day.
If you would like to donate, support, or volunteer, we provided a link at cbs8.com. Ariana Cohen, CBS 8.
It truly gives me goosebumps. I have volunteered my time with Camp Reach for the Sky and just doing truly incredible work. So Ariana, thank you. Before we go, it was certainly a special treat for stargazers on Tuesday night, a super moon. Viewers sent us these photos in of the sky. This one's actually called the sturgeon moon, and that's because the giant sturgeon of the Great Lakes and Lake Champlain were most readily caught during this part of the summer. That's interesting. So while it's beautiful to look at in the sky, the sturgeon moon is actually having an effect down here on Earth. Its gravitational pull is leading to flooding actually in some areas, including the bayside of Mission Beach. CBS 8's Richard Allen has more.
Luckily, we're here today in paradise, but yeah, last night wasn't paradise.
This is video of that flooding last night, which caught a lot of Mission Beach residents off guard.
Shocked me. We go for a walk this time of night, and we got back, and it was unbelievable the amount of water that was coming over already.
They're concerned that tonight could be worse, although they say they are prepared.
We have sandbags in case we need them.
Along with that concern, though, is genuine excitement over tonight's supermoon.
It's that new energy exchange. Yeah. It's, you know, a big Southern California word, you know, the new moon, new start. It's start of a new month, so we're excited about it.
And local astrophotographer Maxwell Palau is even more excited because of what else August has in store for us.
We're having a blue moon this month. The blue moon meaning that we're going to have 2 full moons this month.
Palau, who lectures on both astronomy and photography, says the supermoon occurs when the moon gets closest to Earth in its orbit.
The moon's orbit isn't perfectly circular. It's a little bit elliptical. And what that means is kind of an oval shape. And it's when it gets to that little skinny portion of the oval and a full moon, that's when you get a supermoon.
Palau also says that because the moon is so bright, you can appreciate it almost anywhere in the county.
Of course, to enjoy it a little bit more, getting out further away from the city lights is always a little better.
Such as Mission Trails Regional Park or Ramona. Palau also says that while a pricier DSLR or mirrorless camera will capture the finest images, an iPhone will also do a decent job when it comes to shooting the moon.
Especially if you put an iPhone up to a telescope or some kind of a magnified optic, then that's when you get some really cool photos.
That was our Richard Allen there reporting, and it is truly so spectacular. I hope you've taken the time to look outside and really let it sink in that the moon impacts our waves, our tides. It's just wild. So the second moon, again, the second super moon of this month, once again, is the blue moon. You'll be able to see that on August 30th. As always, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for staying informed. For CBS 8, I'm Jenny Day. We'll be back next week with more. Till then, take such good care.